will Steve Sarkisian, or if there's someone else out there, who will be the next coach to win his first national championship? I think if you're looking at it, the names contenders, Sark, Dan Lanning, James Franklin. I know people don't like to hear that, but he's in the running for sure. Brian Kelly, which is crazy to say, is still in the running. I think Marcus Freeman, obviously in the running. He was just in the national championship game. You have to put his name out there. So do you think Sark is number one on this list? If not, who would you have number one?
It's tough. There's that group. I think you hit the nail on the head with the group of people. I think it's probably between, if I had to gun in my head, I think probably Lanning or Sark, probably. Brian Kelly, I just don't like. LSU has all of the resources, but I just don't. There's something to be said about culture fit. It's probably overdone, but I also think Brian Kelly just doesn't work in Baton Rouge. I just don't think it's a good fit there. Notre Dame, again, it's going to be Lanning. It's going to be Lanning, Freeman, or Sark in my book, because the way that the programs are aligned, the way that the resources are aligned, the way that they're building those programs. Notre Dame was a decent quarterback away from probably being more competitive in that national championship picture. James Franklin. He's won some big games, right? People aren't giving him credit for winning college football playoff games. They're still giving him that. He doesn't win big games moniker, but he did, regardless of who he beat, winning the college football playoff is a big stinking deal. So I think they're probably in a position, especially this coming year, they've got a lot. It looks similar to not quite as high levels what Ohio State had, but when you have a lot of senior level, top level guys coming back for one more year, Drew Aller has another year to hopefully live up to his potential. I think Penn State is going to be somebody to have a lot of say in the national championship conversation this year. But I think if I had to put a fine point on it, I think Lanning's probably number one, just with Papa Phil's money bags being floated around there. That's probably the way I would lean, but I'd probably be a close second for Sark.
Yeah, I do have Sark number one. I just think I think he is the most consistent right now that I've seen. Obviously, he's had more time than Dan Lanning at this moment. I also don't know what Dan Lanning's going to look like without an experienced veteran quarterback. We've seen Bo Nix, who was basically in his fifth or sixth year in college. We've seen Dylan Gabriel, who's in his sixth or seventh year in college. What is he going to look like with Dante Moore, who honestly wasn't very good at UCLA, in my opinion, from what I watched? I mean, he got benched for Chase Garbers or whatever the heck his name is, but I just don't. I don't know yet about Dan Lanning. I think he's definitely going to win a national championship. I just don't know if I could put him over Sark. I will agree, though, with the James Franklin point. To me, going into the season, I think there's two teams you can rank number one, preseason-wise, just with what's coming back in the talent. I think it's Penn State, and I think it's Texas. In my opinion, with the talent coming back, I think those should be the preseason one or two, whatever way you want to put them. Ohio State's probably in the running for third or fourth. And Penn State this year, if you're telling me for this year, out of these coaches, who would I say? I would honestly probably say James Franklin, because the team is loaded. You have both your running backs back with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, I believe. And then you have Drew Aller coming back, who, man, there's some games I watch is damn, this guy's lights out. He could be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Then there's plays in games like Notre Dame. Why are you making that throw with 45 seconds left when you have the arm to just chuck it out of bounds, and it wasn't even fourth down? It was second down, and you're making that play in your own territory. Why are you doing that? But you're going to have those guys back, plus a lot of defensive players back from that team. So I think this team can definitely win the national championship. But I will say this, if he doesn't win it next year, I don't see him winning it, because this is his best chance next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, this feels like the do it or never do it year for Penn State and James Franklin. Even winning the conference. If he can't win the conference this year, it's never going to happen for him, because Ohio State is not going to be as good as they were last year. Michigan is still a work in progress. Indiana's not going to be as good. I just don't know who their other threats are in the Big Ten. So if he can't get it done this year, I don't know when he's ever going to get it done.
Well, yeah, and I think I'm pretty positive they have Oregon coming to Happy Valley. If you can't beat an Oregon team that's probably going to be the second worst of the Dan Lanning era at your own place, like you said, it's never going to happen. this is it for him. To me, you have to at least win the conference. To me, I think you have to at least make the national championship game with this talent. I'm not going to say you have to win it, but you should get there. I'm not there with Texas yet. I think Texas, honestly, is building for next year. I think next year is the year to me where it's like they should win the national championship. I'm not there this year, but it is wide open. Like if you look, there isn't a dominant team where like, you know what, that team is the odds-on favorite by a lot to win the national championship. They all have a lot of question marks, whereas last year it was pretty obvious to me. It was Ohio State, and then I thought Georgia, and then a little bit of everyone else. There is no team right up there like that right now.
And those years are the most fun to me, like when you don't know, and you don't have to let the national championship conversation drive your attention, right? So it's just like, let's go out, watch a cool football game, and it'll all sort itself out in the end. I'm excited for it.
No, 100%. So my top three would probably go Sark, Lanning, and then I'm going to throw James Franklin in there just because of this year. Again, this is kind of like what I said about Brian Kelly last year. I had Brian Kelly as the second best coach in the SEC, and then he fell down to like 9 or 8 for me because guess what? You had Jaden Daniels, you fumbled that. You had Garrett Nussmeier, you kind of fumbled that last year. So it's like, how much leeway can I give you, especially when, guess what? Every coach there has won a national championship in the past 20, 25 years. So, and you're the only one that hasn't or even gotten to a college football playoff now that it's easier. That's a red flag for me. So I don't know even what to expect from him.
It is iffy at best. We'll say it like that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if they don't win 10 games this year, I think he gets fired. I think it's a lot like Tom Herman, where I don't know if Tom Herman's results warranted to him getting fired that fast as Texas, but when you have those results, plus you're an asshole, that kind of leads to, you know what? Your leash is going to be pretty short. And I think that's kind of with Brian Kelly.
Very short.
You're kind of an asshole and you're not winning. So guess what, buddy? You're gone. And that's kind of the opposite with Ed Orgeron. I think Ed Orgeron bought himself another year because he's kind of a likable guy. He's not an asshole.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with him. But those are my top three. Who are your top three? You said Lanning, Sark, and then who would you put third?
Lanning, Sark, and Franklin, I think, is probably where I would go with that.
Okay. That does it for that discussion as well. Please, again, hit that like button, subscribe down below.